Yeah, I mean, this is going to be, I think, one of the more fascinating Heisman races we've seen. First time in a couple of years. There's not a returning Heisman winner. No Caleb Williams. Obviously, no Bryce Young. Jaden Daniels off to the NFL. So, with this being kind of a wide open college football season as well, you can kind of center on a couple top contenders, the Carson Becks, the Quinn Ewers of the world. Obviously, those two guys from the SEC. But I think a guy like Jalen Milroe at Alabama, could be an X factor in the race too if he can kind of replicate what he did last year, but play with more consistency. He and I think a guy like Nico Alamaliava, at Tennessee, they can kind of change the geometry on the field. You have to cover them as both a dual threat runner, explosive passers. So I'm going to be very interested to see how this kind of Heisman season plays out, not only in the SEC, but across the country.
I'm always interested, Jesse, in different views, and you only have what you have in front of you to project a Heisman winner. But as somebody who watches college football from your perch, what ends up shaping the Heisman race the most once we get into the season?
Well, historically, at least in the modern time, you have to be a guy who's playing on a national championship contender. Now, that has been an outlier, I will say, the last two seasons. Before Caleb Williams won it 2 years ago, it had been all the way back to Lamar Jackson, I think, what that was in 2016, that, the Heisman winner did not come from a college football playoff contender or team, excuse me. So if your team wasn't in the mix, you probably weren't going to win the Heisman. You may be like a dark horse candidate or a wild card guy, but you weren't seriously in consideration. I think that's going to be a little less of the norm moving forward because we're not going to have as many undefeated teams. You're going to see more programs take losses in this expanded 12-team playoff field. And so I think more guys like a Jalen Daniels at Kansas, maybe he actually would merit more serious consideration if he has a monster season this year. Whereas in years past, on an 8-4, 9-3 Kansas team, he probably gets overlooked.
Give me something. Try to shake around.